There is a very big difference between making plans for your business and having them come to life and getting closer to the vision that you have for your business in the first place, and making New Year's resolutions and putting them in a drawer and never really looking at them again. I want to talk about the latter and how you can actually bring your big lifestyle business vision to life with not motivation, with not trying and doing your best and seeing what happens, but with a steady system that is basically guaranteed to make it happen. This is part 2 in a series that I am doing on building a bit of an operating system for a lifestyle business. Now, if you aren't clear by now on what a lifestyle business is, it is, of course, a business that supports the life that you want to live. Now, that doesn't happen by chance. It happens by design. And in the last episode, I spoke about how to build a big, exciting, inspiring lifestyle vision for your business and how to reverse engineer into the type of business model and business system that brings it to life. So if you haven't listened to that, make sure you go back and you listen to that episode because it is the precursor to this one. What I want to talk about right now, though, is how you can actually take whatever it is that you want to achieve in your business and make it happen. I think that we are all guilty of making big plans, usually at the start of January or the end of December. And, we may have done that a month or so ago if you're listening to this in real time. We get excited. We have a bit of time, maybe over the holidays, to kind of map out a plan and map out a vision for ourselves and to set big, lofty goals. And that is amazing if you get to the end of the next year and you actually bring them to life. But I think what happens a lot of the time is that they're shoved in a drawer and they don't get looked at again, or they don't get achieved for whatever reason. And you get to the end of the year and you're like, this year just wasn't my year, or I wonder what happened. How did it go so quick? We don't want that to happen. So what I want to walk you through is the second part of my lifestyle business operating system, which is how to set a plan, actually a plan that you're going to stick to, how to develop a pulse within your business, so consistent rhythms to make it happen, and then how to track your progress to know what's working, know what's not working, and actually make data-driven decisions instead of decisions based on emotion. So I call this pillar the math pillar of the lifestyle business operating system because it ultimately all comes down to math. At the end of the day, you're going to have a scorecard that is going to tell you, okay, did I bring my big goals and dreams to life or didn't I? And what was the culprit? What was the reason for that? But there are a few steps, obviously, to get to that point. Now, if you want me to break down in detail the behind the scenes of the lifestyle business operating system that I use, I'm sharing the overview today and in this series. Definitely come to the free class that if you're listening in real time, I am hosting in just a few days. I'm going to put the link inside of the show notes so you can click on it. You can register to come along. Inside of that class, I'm going to be sharing with you the behind the scenes of what is involved in actually building a simple, very lean business model that supports the lifestyle that you want because you have intentionally defined it. And then the steps involved in bringing it to life, not from a strategy perspective so much as getting into action, making the things that you know you need to bring to life inside of your business to get to whatever your vision is, making sure that those things actually happen and the process for doing that. So let's walk through this pillar 2 of the lifestyle business operating system. So the first part is planning. Now, you're either in one of two camps. You either love to plan or it makes you want to run for the hills. And what I'm going to talk about today when I talk about planning probably isn't the type of planning that you have been taught in the past. When we think about planning, we think about two things usually. We think about having big annual plans where we map out at the beginning of the year what it is that we want to achieve for the year. And then we think about having big goals. So what are the big goals that we want to achieve? both of those two things are problematic, and they're the reason that people aren't actually getting the results that they want to from the plans that they set. So I want to walk through why that is. First and foremost, let's talk about annual plans. A year is a long time, and it is also a short time. So a lot can happen in a year. And of course, there's a lot of big kind of goals that we can bring to life if that is what it is that we want. But the problem is that, especially when we work in the online business world, a lot can happen in a year. And so the plans that we set right at the start of January might be completely out of date by March, because by the time that March comes around, we have new information. We have things that have worked. We have things that haven't worked. We have things that have happened inside of our life that might have completely derailed us or otherwise. And so we want to make sure that we're not setting plans in an environment where they're actually going to be completely out of date within 3 months. So that is the first problem, setting annual plans when things are constantly changing. The second is this idea, and I think this is a bit of a bro marketer thing that permeates the online business world especially, but this concept of like 2x or 10x is better than 2x. 10x is not better than 2x, especially when 10xing whatever it is that your big goals are means that you don't achieve them in the first place. I have a strong belief that if you are setting big, over-ambitious goals, it is actually a form of self-sabotage. It is getting you to a point where you are pushing so hard and you are so disappointed when you don't get to whatever that big goal is that you set because you have been told to set big goals, that you give up altogether and nothing happens at all. So the problem here is, number one, that we are just setting these like big annual plans and then we don't have this like process for revisiting them. And then number two is that we're over ambitious with the goals that we set. So the way that I recommend doing planning is in what I call sprint sessions. So I work on a 40-week year calendar, which means that I work in 10-week sprints with 2-week breaks at the end of each of those sprints. And then I have a big 6 to 8 week break at the end of the year. And so I'm working in focused, concentrated periods of time. They happen to align with the school holidays, which is helpful for me. But what it does is it allows me to set a plan for a period of time that is tied to achieving my big lifestyle vision, whatever that is, but in a condensed time period that is not only achievable, but allows me to set the plan based on the data I have from the sprint before. So rather than thinking about planning in terms of years, it is thinking about planning in terms of sprint periods. Now, the big lifestyle vision that you set for what it is that you want from your life and how your business is going to support you to achieve it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to the last episode in this series where I talk through that. That should be big. That should be exciting. That should be inspiring. That should make you want to get up out of bed in the morning and go, oh my gosh, I actually want to go for this. Because if you don't have that, you're not going to be motivated or inspired to do any of this stuff that we're talking about now. But when it comes to the plans that you set, you want to do it in small, bite-sized chunks of time. So within those sprint periods. And you also want to do it in small, bite-sized goals. So rather than setting a big annual plan and 10xing our goals, we are actually just eating an elephant one bite at a time. We are taking a bite each and every sprint period, and then we set a new plan based on the results from the one before. And then the goals that we're setting inside of that sprint period as we're planning, We're not being overambitious with them. We're not shrinking ourselves. We still want to stretch ourselves a little bit, but we are setting goals that are going to be realistic for us to achieve, and specifically realistic to achieve based on our current season and our current life circumstances. A lot of the time we set goals in a vacuum and we say, based on the very best version of myself and nothing else going on in my life, these are the goals that I want to achieve. And that is amazing if you're in a season where you have nothing else going on and you can just go hell for leather. But for most of us, we do have other constraints and we do have things that tend to stop us even if we don't know about them when we set the plan. So what we want to do is set what I call minimum viable goals. We don't want to overextend. We don't want to set too many. We want to be realistic about what we can achieve. There's the story of the tortoise and the hare that I absolutely love. I teach this to my children, where taking small, consistent actions that compound. So in the case of this story, it was the tortoise just plodding along. He actually got to the finish line faster than the hare, who just tried to go hell for leather and completely burnt himself out. That's how I think about planning. It is the people that just plod along. They're intentional about what they're doing and the goals that they have that are going to help them to get to their bigger vision. They are clear about the actions that they need to take to bring that to life. And then they just go about achieving that, plodding along and sticking to the plan. So that is part one of the operating system. And hopefully that takes a little bit of the pressure off. Like when you think about, oh my gosh, like I need to get into this rhythm in order to build my business, or, I need to goal set and I need to do all of these things. That can start to feel heavy. I actually want this to feel light. I want the plans that you set to feel inspiring because they're small little steps towards your big inspiring lifestyle vision. And I also want them to feel achievable. There's something that, yes, of course, you want to stretch yourself a little bit, but you can see the finish line. You can see that it's going to be possible for you to achieve. So part two of the lifestyle business operating system is what I call the pulse. Now, when you think about having a pulse inside of your body, it's your heart beating consistently. Boom, 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 boom. We want to apply that sort of consistent rhythm to the way that we roll out our plans and the way that we run our business. So there is a very big difference between, like I said, having a plan that just sits in a drawer and doesn't get actioned, and one that actually informs what we do on a monthly basis, a weekly basis, and a daily basis. We are going for the latter here. So what we want to make sure that we have set up in our business is a steady pulse for bringing our goals to life and for completing the key actions that are required in our business to keep it running. So there's two different things there. There is the goals that we set each and every sprint period, and then there are our key business rhythms, which are in the business system that we set up inside of, I talked about in the last episode, I talked about how every business has an offer, a top of funnel strategy to attract people, a middle of funnel strategy to nurture people, and a bottom of funnel strategy to turn those people into sales. So you'll have business rhythms for what you do in each of those spaces. So what we want to make sure that we have in our business is a really simple pulse system to make sure that we are consistently doing each of those things and that we are consistently taking the actions to bring our goals to life. So what that looks like when you zoom out and you look at your year is that you're going to have a quarterly pulse, which is when you are doing your sprint planning sessions. Then you want to have a monthly pulse where you are reviewing, reflecting, and revisiting your progress so far, and sometimes realigning because it is very normal to fall off the horse a little bit. So you want to have a pulse to bring yourself back. You want to have a weekly pulse, which is a practice inside of your business where at the end of every single week, I have a worksheet that I use for this, and it is my Bible. But you're mapping out the week ahead with the key actions taken from your plan that you are going to complete the following week. Once again, being realistic. What's going on the next week? What other obligations do I have? What else do I need to complete? And what is realistic for me to achieve here? And then on a daily basis, I have a practice called the daily pulse. So that is bringing, that big plan that you have all the way down to what you're doing on a daily basis and being clear on what is the top 1 to 3 activities that I am going to complete on this day. And I'm going to have a focused time allocated to achieve it, that if I finish the day and those things are done, it will have been a success. So that is the steady pulse that you want to have in your business, to not just have these beautiful plans and these beautiful goals, but to actually bring them to life in a very realistic and real way. So we've talked about the plan. We've talked about the pulse. Now let's talk about the third P, which is progress tracking. Now, a lot of the time when I talk about data, people are like, no, I don't want to hear anything about it. And I think it's because we've been burnt. Maybe we've had these spreadsheets with a million different things that we've tried to track, and we haven't actually really even looked at them, and it hasn't really helped us at all. And so we've kind of just given up, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about once you have your goals and you have your business rhythms established, having a way of scoring just with a curious mindset, not with a judgmental mindset, how you are going in relation to each of those areas. So there's 2 things that you ultimately want to track when it comes to your progress tracking. Number 1 is the goals that you have and the actions that you have said you hypothesize are going to help you to reach your goals. And then number 2 is having a simple scorecard to track your business rhythms. So I'll talk about each of those separately. So number 1, when it comes to your goals, you might have a goal, for example, that you are going to increase your webinar conversion rate from 2% to 3%. That's a great goal because it's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable. And so from there, what you want to think about is, okay, well, what do I hypothesize are the actions that are going to help me to achieve that goal? And so you might have 7 or 8 key actions that you're going to take over the time that you are running your sprint plan. And so you have all of those actions. Whether or not you take those actions is actually, for the most part, unless you've completely overextended yourself, wholly and solely within your control. So you're going to track the percentage of actions you complete. And then you're also going to track, did I achieve the goal? Because there's 2 reasons you won't achieve a goal. Number 1, you didn't take the action. And number 2, the action didn't have the desired result, in which case then you know and you can adjust the action that you take. But a lot of the time, it ends up being the action that isn't being taken. And so you want to have a way of tracking your goals, actually thinking, okay, these are the actions I'm going to take. Did they have the desired effect? The other thing that you want to do is have a really simple scorecard to track the health of your business. So you want to track all of the key things like your revenue, and also when you have a lifestyle business, how much you worked to get the key metric, which is called profit per hour, which I might talk about in a different episode. And also how much profit you're making and your profit margins. So all of the key metrics that run your business. But you also want to make sure that you're tracking your key business systems. So the strategy that you have for your top of funnel, your middle of funnel, your bottom of funnel, what is the action that you're going to take? And then is it having the desired outcome? So for example, if you've decided that you're going to run a monthly webinar as your bottom of funnel strategy and business rhythm, the action would be, did I do it? Did I run the campaign? And you actually want to track that, right? It's pretty important. And then did it have the desired outcome? Did I get the number of sales that I wanted? And you just want to be able to do that for each part of your business, because just like goal setting, there is the action, which you want to get into a consistent pulse of taking, and you'll improve it over time, but it's just like you can control that pulse, right? And then the outcome. So if it's not having the outcome that you want it to have, what can you do to improve? So that progress tracking system is really powerful because it helps you see where the gaps are in your business from an action and an outcome perspective, but also in terms of whether you need to fix something and what it is that you need to fix next. So that is the rhythm that you want to get into to bring the big lifestyle vision that we talked about in the previous episode to life. Now, you could be plugging any business strategy or any offer or anything into this lifestyle business operating system. The operating system remains the same. You want to have a plan. So, what is the plan that you are making for the goals that you are setting to get you a little bit closer to that lifestyle vision? Then what is the pulse or the system that you have in place for actually taking that action? One thing that I love that James Clear says is that you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And I think that's fantastic because it's one thing to set a goal. It's another thing altogether to actually take the actions to bring that to life. And then number 3 is progress tracking. So having a simple process in your business to track the actions you're taking and whether they're having the intended outcome so that you can make informed business decisions about that. Ultimately, what gets measured gets managed. It is a super simple system. And a lot of the time we kind of know that we should be doing this. In my experience, we do. We know that we should be creating plans. We know that our action should be aligned with those plans. We know that we should be tracking our data. They're all of these like foundational things that we know that we should be doing, but we're not often doing. Now, that is the number one problem that I am committed to solving at the moment, because I think that implementing these simple systems into your business is actually the secret. It is not more strategy, because the secret is that all strategies actually work. Yes, you need to adapt them to the, time and the place and what you're doing, but ultimately everything works and there's evidence of that. But it is the fact that we don't have the structure in place to be taking consistent action. Now, the last thing that I want to leave you with is that consistency doesn't mean being a robot. You are going to fall off the wagon. You are going to make plans that you don't always follow through on. You are going to commit to podcasting weekly and then you're going to drop the ball for a week or two. The goal here isn't to be a robot or to expect yourself to be and then to give up the second that you're not. The secret is to have these rhythms inside of your business and then to be kind to yourself, to realize that you're not going to do it perfectly. You might fall off the horse once or twice, but that you get back on, that you're kind to yourself, and that you realize that the only way that this is ever not going to work out, not in 2 seconds, not even in a year, maybe not even in 3 years, but it will work out if you don't stop. If you listen and you track your data and you iterate and continue to take the actions, that is the only way that this stuff doesn't work out for you. So that is what I want to leave you with. Like I said, this is part 2 of the Lifestyle Business Operating System. If you want a deep dive into how to install this system, absolutely come to the class that I'm running next week. The link is inside of the show notes. And keep or maybe subscribe or follow if you're not already to keep your eyes and ears peeled for the 3rd episode inside of this series, where I'm going to be going through the 3rd pillar, which is the money pillar. So once you're making consistent profit inside of your business, how to actually use that profit and to set it aside to one day get to the point that you can make work optional for yourself. So I'm super looking forward to that one. I hope you're enjoying this, and I'll see you in the next one.